joining us today. Today we're at the zoo. How exciting is that? Hopefully we're going to see some really cool animals while we're here. But first, we are here with Miss Kathleen, and she's going to tell us about the zoo. So can you start with telling us who you are and what you do here?
Sure. My name is Kathleen McGill, and I am the lead education specialist here at the Utica Zoo. I have quite a fun job because I get to work with animals, but I also get to work with people. We get to do a lot of education programs here at the zoo that I'm part of, whether it's a birthday party to a zoomobile, taking our animals off site to schools and nursing homes and libraries, or coming on site and doing guided tours and camps with the kids. So I get to kind of do a little bit of animal stuff, but I also get to work with people and teach. So it's a really awesome job.
That sounds a lot of fun.
It definitely is.
I have a quick question though. You can have a birthday party at the zoo?
You can have a birthday party at the zoo, yeah?
That's super cool. Do you know when the zoo was founded and how many animals they had when they started?
Definitely. So the zoo actually opened over 100 years ago. We opened in 1914, and we only had 3 fallow deer. So only 3 animals here at the zoo. Today we actually have about 99 species, but with individual animals, it's well over like 100 to 200 animals. So we have quite a lot more than that. And the zoo isn't even fully developed either. So even though we have a lot of land, we still have more coming. We actually released a master plan a few years ago with kind of what we want to see the zoo to become in the next 5, 10, 15 years. And there's a lot more that the zoo has in store and has kind of plans to grow. So it's definitely not done growing yet.
That's very exciting.
And we're super excited to keep moving forward towards that dream and that goal. So.
What is that?
That's the Guinness.
Oh, okay. Cool.
They're just interrupting our.
I like it. What kinds of endangered animals do you have here?
Sure. So we have a lot of different species of endangered animals here at the zoo. And basically the way that we kind of think of animals, they kind of can be on a different scale. There's some animals that are endangered or even critically endangered, meaning that their populations and numbers that they have in the wild are very, very decreased or declined from what they once were. And then there's some animals that we consider least concern, which means that they're doing pretty well in the wild. We're not as worried about them. Here at the zoo, we're very lucky to have, that actually just joined us last summer, 3 African painted dogs. They're actually endangered. They're really awesome animals, and I love going to visit them because they're always really active. They're all sisters, so they're always kind of get to see that like family dynamic between them. And in the wild, they're actually known to be very family oriented. They live in family groups. They work together in family groups. They even take care of their young and their old together. So they're really cool animals. We also have 3 really awesome warty pigs. They kind of look like little rock stars. They've got little mohawks going on.
Nice.
And they're really awesome. They're actually considered critically endangered, and they weren't recognized as a species until very recently. So people didn't even think that they were kind of their own separate thing. And once they did discover that, they found that they were in some trouble. Their amount of habitat, what they had left, wasn't really as much as it used to be. They live on islands, so unfortunately they can only be found on a couple patches of a couple islands now, whereas they used to be much more diverse and live in a lot more places. So that's another really cool endangered species that we have. And then of course, I'm sure you can hear our wonderful gibbons behind us. A lot of our primates that live here at the zoo, our gibbons, our spider monkeys, and our tamarins are all facing becoming endangered or extinct because of loss of rainforests and habitats where they live. As well as, again, learning to live with people. Sometimes people take them out of the wild, unfortunately, for illegal pet trade. And I can tell you that a primate does not make a very good pet for a lot of different reasons. And they're actually one of the animals that we have to be very careful of right now because of COVID. Primates are susceptible to a lot of the same diseases and illnesses that we can get. And COVID is one of those things, which is why we ask our visitors to wear their masks, is for the protection of our animals.
Now, on kind of the flip side of that, what is the friendliest animal you have here?
Sure. So after working with the zoo for a while, I've learned that every animal kind of has their own different personality. and they kind of all act a certain way or kind of have things that they like and dislike, just as people do. Foods that they like to eat, things that they like to play with. We give them what's called enrichment here at the zoo. The animals that I specifically work with are called our ambassador animals. They're the ones that actually go out on programs with me, to zoomobiles, to birthday parties, to whatever it may be. And they're animals that are actually trained and handled pretty often. So they're pretty used to being handled, pretty used to being around people. But just as we get breaks, from work every day, or at least a couple times a week, and hopefully get to get vacation a couple times a year too, our animals are the same way. We want to make sure that they're happy, that they're healthy, and that we give them the choice to participate. So if I go in and think that I want to bring a snake out with me, and they just decide that they don't want to come with me, I'll bring somebody else to make sure that they have that choice and that opportunity to tell us how they're feeling that day. Because just as people, animals can wake up on the wrong side of the bed too, be a little cranky. And of course, if an animal's not acting quite the way that they usually do, that's when we might contact like our vet to make sure that they're okay, or maybe just give them a break or a day that they can kind of relax and enjoy just hanging out.
Yeah. So out of the animals that you work with, do you have a favorite?
I get this question a lot, and I have a very hard time answering because I have a lot of favorites.
Yeah.
I work, in particular, it's kind of a funny story, but growing up, I had a lot of different pets, from dogs to cats to hermit crabs. I had a snake growing up, so it was very second nature to me to work with reptiles. But I never worked or really was around birds at all because my mother was allergic to birds. So we never had a bird in our house. And when I started working here at the zoo, I found that the birds were one of my favorite animals to work with. So I've worked with here at the zoo an owl, I've worked with ducks and chickens, and I love working with them. So I definitely really like the birds. I like all of the birds that I work with. But there's also a couple reptiles, a couple mammals that we have that I love working with. One of our newest animals that we have here at the zoo that I work with is a possum named Posy. And she is really, really cool to work with.
So there are a lot of animals here. How do they all get taken care of every day?
That's a really good question. So we have a really awesome team of zookeepers here, and all of our zookeepers, we actually have multiple zookeepers that are here on site every day taking care of our animals. So even during COVID, when we were shut down, our zookeepers were still here caring for all our critters. Even on the days where the zoo's closed, like Christmas and Thanksgiving, zookeepers are here taking care of the animals because we always want to make sure that our animals are happy and healthy. So we actually have our zookeepers go through a routine with their animals. They check on all their animals, make sure they have fresh food and water every day, clean them every single day. And then we also have a vet technician here on staff, as well as a vet who comes in during the week to visit some of our animals for their checkups. Just like people and just like our pets at home, animals get checkups too. And just like people and our pets at home, not all of our animals are super thrilled about getting their checkups here at the zoo.
Right.
We actually have some of our animals, our zookeepers work on training them, so they actually are trained to show different parts of their body, or even trained to kind of participate in a checkup. So that way it makes it a less stressful experience for them, so they're more willing to do those things. Like us at home, our animals here at the zoo also sometimes take vitamins or medication, depending. So a good example is actually one of our cranes here. His name is Creamy. He's one of the oldest cranes in the country. He's actually going to be celebrating his 40th birthday here in just a few weeks. And you might notice sometimes he has a little bit of arthritis because he's an older bird. So we make sure that he is as comfortable as possible. We make sure to watch him very closely, especially in those colder months when that can sometimes be a problem even for us humans as well. But a lot of our animals take vitamins to keep them healthy, just like we take vitamins. So
Do they like taking vitamins?
it depends. I've heard that some of our primates are a little bit picky about what kinds of vitamins they take. They only like specific colors of certain vitamins,
I can
specific
relate to that.
tastes. Yeah.
All right. One last question then. What is your favorite part of your job?
My favorite part of my job, I think, is getting to teach people about the animals and working with the animals and learning more about them myself. I love a job that no day here at the zoo is exactly exactly the same as the next day.
Yeah.
Everything's always different here. And you kind of always have a plan in place, but things always happen very unexpectedly. I teach a lot of different age groups. I go to a lot of different places, and that's probably my favorite part. But I like that I can do different things on different days, that everything looks a little bit different every single day, because I would definitely think I would get bored if I was doing the same thing every single day with the same animals every single day. But being able to work with a lot of different animals and a lot of different people kind of keeps everything really exciting and new and fresh, and just makes it a really fun job.
All right, yeah, that sounds awesome. I kind of want to work at the zoo now. Well, thank you for joining us today, and you know, as we're getting warmer out here, you guys could come visit the zoo too, and who knows what kind of animals you'll see.
Where the Wild Things Are by Maurice Sendak. The night Max wore his wolf suit and made mischief of one kind and another, his mother called him Wild Thing, and Max said, "I'll eat you up." So he was sent to bed without eating anything. That very night, in Max's room, a forest grew and grew and grew until the ceiling hung with vines and the walls became the world around, and an ocean tumbled by with a private boat for Max. So we sailed off through night and day, in and out of weeks, and almost over a year, till he came to where the wild things are. And when he came to the place where the wild things are, they roared their terrible roars and gnashed their terrible teeth and rolled their yellow eyes and showed their terrible claws, till Max said, "Be still!" And he tamed them with the magic trick of staring into all their yellow eyes without blinking once. And they were frightened, and they called him the most wild thing of all. And they made him king of all the wild things. "And now," cried Max, "let the wild rumpus start!" "Now stop," said Max, and he sent the wild things to bed without their supper. Now Max, the king of all the wild things, was lonely, and he wanted to be somewhere where someone loved him best of all. Then all around, from far away, Max smelled good things to eat. So he gave up being king of where the wild things are. And the wild things said, "Oh, please don't go. We'll eat you up. We love you so." And Max said, "No." And the wild things roared their terrible roars and gnashed their terrible teeth and rolled their yellow eyes and showed their terrible claws. And Max stepped into his private boat and waved goodbye. And he sailed back over through a year, in and out of weeks, through a day, and right into the night of his very own room, where he found his supper waiting for him. And it was still hot. The end.